Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash, expert in health and longevity and creator of Bogash Life and Balance. And today we're going to talk about a topic that should not come as any big surprise, but it allows for some more clarification on outcomes related to COVID. It has been very clear from the very beginning that obesity plays a big role in COVID outcomes, not just the diagnosis, also the spread. People with a higher BMI, when they are infected, will have more viral particles in their breath. A little topic that people don't seem to acknowledge, but that is well accepted. But there's differences in obesity. Now, in general, we can look at any type of overweightness as not being a good thing. I generally don't like looking at BMI because somebody could be very muscle bound and still have a high BMI, but it works from a population standpoint where you can look at groups of people and look at their BMI and see how it relates to certain outcomes, in this case, COVID. But there is actually such a thing as metabolically healthy and metabolically unhealthy obesity. We all know some of those people that are otherwise very active. I've certainly been stuck under a few in jiu-jitsu and who outweigh me by 150 pounds. And these people are very active and otherwise very healthy, and they may actually have a good diet. We could argue that their overall health would be better, but they are not immediately metabolically unhealthy. So when we look at people, and the same thing goes with people who are considered what's called normal weight metabolically obese. So they look okay, they look lean, but you know that their diet and exercise and everything is crap, and sure enough, if you look at their bloodstream, they've got elevated cholesterol, HDL is too low, triglycerides are too high, blood pressure may be high. So it's not just obesity, it's the underlying metabolic health associated with obesity. So in this particular study, they looked at, out of South Korea, 4,069 people with COVID, and they broke them out into metabolically healthy, normal weight. So this is the ideal scenario. Then they looked at people who were normal weight, metabolically unhealthy. And then they looked at people who were they were overweight but metabolically healthy. And the worst scenario, obesity with metabolic unhealthiness. Or metabolically unhealthy. Looking at the markers in particular, they looked at body weight, versus height. That's how they get the BMI. But then they looked at waist circumference. So people with a higher waist circumference generally have more inflammatory fat in their gut and are more unhealthy. Blood pressure, fasting blood glucose, and lipids. So I love looking at people's lipids because it gives me an idea of how well they're living their lifestyle for their genetics. But ultimately, they looked at people's in these categories and how much they had a risk of having critical outcomes from COVID. So ICU, ECMO, all of those things, including death. They found that the healthy weight, not metabolically, so basically the best people taking care of themselves, had a 10% lower risk of bad outcomes. The metabolically healthy but obese had a 64% higher risk. So again, obesity is playing a role here. But when we looked at metabolically unhealthy, both obese and normal weight, they had 337% higher risk of critical outcomes. Like, that's pretty massive. Compared to obesity. So it's not just about looking at the person, it's understanding their lifestyle and the choices that they make that lead to being metabolically unhealthy. And we've known this for a long time, that those are the people that are the ticking time bombs, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're obese. So again, I have said this again and again and again. When we look back and we study, we will find that COVID was not random, that it did exactly what we expected it to do. But that's not the story that you get from the media and unfortunately from public health, because we have a certain responsibility for taking care of ourselves. But if we're told that doesn't make it, or if we're not told that makes a difference, then we don't feel responsible for taking better care of ourselves. That is absolutely not true, and it has not been promoted these past 2 years, and that has been one of my largest major pet peeves, is that we have not talked about lifestyle changes. As always, I'll post a link to this particular study in the description. Make sure you like this video, share it with somebody who you think needs information, and subscribe to the channel.